Hey everybody, my name is Steven and welcome to Storytime. Today we're going to be reading some r/maliciouscompliance stories. And quickly before this video starts, I just want to say about 60% of people who watch this video aren't currently subscribed. So if you lovely person, enjoy these videos, please make sure to subscribe so you'll never miss an upcoming one. With that being said, let's get into the stories. The day I was hired and fired by a law firm. So this is about 5 years ago. I worked as a chef at a bakery. It was my job to make everything but the baked goods. Every morning the baker and I would walk in at about 4 a.m. and knock out all the food needed for the day. This would leave me ready to go home around 10 a.m. or so. This put us at the perfect time to deliver online orders. It was common for companies or other entities to place large catering orders with us. The baker and I would split them down the middle and deliver them on our way home. The delivery in question was for Bob, Richard, and Harry, attorneys at law. I have never delivered to BR&H before, but they were a regular of sorts. Every financial quarter, they would hold a huge meeting. This meeting would require roughly $700 of bagels and bagel accessories. This spread included 8 dozen bagels, all 10 of our flavors of cream cheese, pastries, brownies, and enough coffee to power a college dorm through finals week. My passenger seat, entire back seat, and entire trunk are filled with food. Now BR&H is located on the 9th floor of a commercial skyscraper deep in an industrial complex downtown. Parking was non-existent. There were meters outside the building, but I knew I would need close to 10 trips to deliver all this food and didn't have a lot of change on me. Company policy was just to pay whatever fines I needed to park and then turn in my receipts. The money would end up on my next paycheck. So the building has its own parking garage, so I pull on in. The security guard, let's call him Sam, stops me and says that the parking garage is for employees only. I happily show him my delivery invoice and offer him a bribery bagel. Never leave the store without at least 2. Sam refuses the bagel and says I can park in one of the guest spots on the bottom floor. The fee is $5 for every 30 minutes, minimum $10. I thank him and head to the bottom floor of the garage. So there are a total of 6 guest parking spaces. Just 6. All of them are taken. I head back up to talk to Sam when I see an open parking spot reserved for Bob, Richard, and Harry, attorneys at law. There are cars in every spot, with many spots being reserved for employees by name. The last spot is empty and is reserved for guest of BR&H. Perfect. I pull on in. I grab the most important part of the delivery, the coffee, and head to the stairwell. I get into the elevator and hit the button for floor 9. The elevator asks for my employee ID card. Well, crud. So I try the lobby. That works. From there, it's 9 flights of stairs until I'm outside the law firm of Bob, Richard, and Harry. After introducing myself, I am shown to the room where the meeting will take place. A table is set aside for me. I set down the coffee and head for trip number 2. That is when I see Sam talking to the receptionist. He runs over and starts shouting at me. I am putting a boot on your freaking car. I told you to park and guest on the bottom floor. I don't get a word in before he launches into a speech about security and how I could be hurting his building or people. That is when a very well-dressed man walks over. It so happens to be Bob. The Bob of Bob, Richard, and Harry's. Bob asks what is the problem and soon the two are arguing. Bob says OP is delivering food for my meeting. He is allowed to use my parking spots. Sam says those parking spots belong to the building. You are leasing them like you leased this floor. I am the one who says who can park there. He isn't an employee, so he isn't parking. Bob says then I am making him an employee. You can't do that. You know what? You are right. Harry, get over here. Harry walks over with an amused look on his face. Harry, here's the head of our HR department. Harry, hire this boy. Harry pulls out a piece of paper and scribbles, OP is now a member of Bob, Richard, and Harry's, and signs it, then asks me to sign as well. I do so. Bob reaches over to the receptionist who is already grabbing some things. Here is your employee badge, your parking permit, and your elevator key card. Now please, do the job I have hired you to do and deliver my bagels. Sam looks on in utter fury as I ride the elevator down to my car. 7 sweet elevator rides later, all the food is delivered. Bob and Harry meet me at the table. Bob says, "OP, you have made great strides in this company and I am proud of your work, but I feel it is time for us to part ways. Here is your final check." Bob then hands me a crisp $50 bill. Then Harry says, "And your severance package. Now please be sure to return your badge and card on the way out." Harry hands me a $20 bill and sends me on my way. The receptionist is sure to validate the parking ticket that Sam gave me and I head on out. On the way out, Sam grins at me and asks for my ticket. I place it in the machine in a station. It sees the validation I got and lets me out for free. Sam glares at me as I drive off into the late morning sun. Big kudos to Bob, Richard, and Harry on helping this dude out, and just, it's a little thing to help them out. It's just a parking spot. One guest parking spot. What does it really matter? Sam's over here power tripping on who can park wherever. Good on Bob, Richard, and Harry, attorneys at law. "Sorry, we need you here. If you really feel sick, go see a doctor." "Okay, if you insist." I work in a small team of 4 people. I am at the front, my colleagues work in the back. 80% of my work can be done remotely. The other 20% I've been asked not to do unless absolutely necessary, to minimize contact. Seems reasonable. Some of my customers are in the risk group. So now I felt sick and asked my immediate superior if I could work from home as well, since all our company has been ordered to do so already anyway. Not to mention, I shouldn't be running around to people when I feel sick. "Sorry, not possible. We need you to be here because reasons. If you really feel sick, you should go see a doctor." I can do that, but with my symptoms and the overall situation, he would put me on sick leave and self-quarantine for at least 14 days. If you just send me home now, I can self-quarantine and work from home until it gets better or worse.
Why should he do that?
Because we're in the middle of a pandemic. Because our region is a hotspot. And because we do business in Asia by sending people there. And because I have raised temperature and feel like poop and shouldn't be coughing on other people's keyboards and mice.
I think you're overreacting. Just go see a doctor if you feel sick.
Huh. Alright then. Insert your soothing music of choice while I go see a doctor and receive my 14-day quarantine. Today, second day of sick leave, my private phone rings. It's a number from work. I rather ignore it and look at my work emails. Seems like the person in charge of sick calls is sick. Oh, the irony. And my boss is wondering where I am. Paraphrasing. "Hey boss, I am under quarantine."
What? Why? Have you been tested positive?
"Sorry boss, I am not legally required to share my diagnosis. Here's my doctor's note. We'll be on sick leave for the next 2 weeks. After that, we'll see."
But I just want to know if we here have to take any precautions now.
I understand, and yes, you should absolutely follow the precautions that have been advertised all the time. Stay at home if possible. And if you feel sick, go see a doctor and follow his advice. I know it sounds like, and then they all applauded, but in fact it's just poopy that even amidst a pandemic, we can't have nice things and watch out for each other. But still need a doctor's note to stay the freak at home when everyone is telling us to stay the freak at home. Oh, I forgot the probably most important thing for all readers not hailing from Germany. Our work laws exclusively forbid working while you are sick. If you are sick, you are sick. If you work and anything happens, no work insurance and everyone is in for a world of regulatory pain in the butt. That wouldn't have applied if I could have just stayed the freak home. Then it would have been my decision to work through not feeling so well. So if I'm hearing that right, I think OP's saying that they're from Germany, and I do believe I've heard Germany is having a pretty rough go of the pandemic. That being said, if you're going to offer to work from home, you're totally capable of doing it. You say you feel sick during a pandemic and are willing to still work, your superior should really consider that. Not say go to a doctor, because obviously they're going to say don't go to work, stay home, quarantine, if you go to a doctor during this. So I don't know, whatever the superior, manager, whatever was thinking. The shortest term employee at a prestigious tech firm. This story happened to a friend of mine over 30 years ago. Names are protected. One of my friends used to be a systems administrator, one of the top people who ever worked in the field. She built the largest private internet network that existed at the time for a major university. If there are any top people in the field here, you already know who I'm talking about. Please don't mention her name. She tells me stories about warming her pizza on top of the PDP-11 and having to talk to the NRC before she could install computers in the building close to the nuclear reactor. Whether you know it or not, there's a good chance that you use software she designed on a daily basis. She's kinda baffled that it is still in use. When she left that job, a very prestigious tech firm in Boston hired her to be their expert on computer networks. Hiring her was a real coup for the new employer. She really was the expert on the subject at the time. Now she, like many top tech people of the time, basically lived in her office. She had an official home, but would only end up there a few times a week. So when she was hired, one condition she put on working there was that she was allowed to bring her pet tarantula in its tank to her office, because otherwise she wouldn't see it often enough to feed it and it would die. So this was agreed and put into her contract by HR and upper management. This fact becomes important. On her start date, she arrives and was putting her books and things on shelves in her new office, and the tarantula tank was sitting on her new desk. Her new boss walked in, made small talk for a little while, saw the tank, and said,
What is that?"
"That's my tarantula. Would you like to pet her?"
"That's not allowed in here. You have to take it away right now."
So my friend did as the boss asked. She took her books off the shelves, took the tank, and went home. She was employed there for 45 minutes, and the company lost the world's leading expert on computer networks because the boss hadn't bothered to read the contract for her new star employee. It doesn't surprise me that one of the leading experts on computer networks is a little quirky, has a pet tarantula. Sure, why not? Nothing wrong with that. And it was actually cool that HR and upper management agreed to let them bring it in, but not so cool on the boss not being aware of that and immediately kicking them out and making the company lose probably the best employee they could have ever have gotten. But hey, their loss. You want a work note? I'll give you a work note. I work in a small town ER. With this bug scare, volume has been down as people have been advised not to go to the ER unless they are truly sick and need to be stabilized. However, we still have some employers in town that are directing their employees to the ER for work notes. They are telling them to get tested for the bug and only come back if the test is negative and with a work note. Well, every state is short on testing kits. Only truly high-risk people are being tested. In my county, this means you must have just come from China or Seattle. There hasn't been a single case yet in my county or city, but people are being told to come get tested. So instead of testing, we are asking people to self-quarantine for 14 days if they are feeling sick and have symptoms of the bug. I've been giving every single employee sent in by their employer for a bug work note 2 weeks off so they can self-quarantine. Employees are happy. Yeah, the only people in the wrong here are the employers. When there's a big pandemic type issue going on like this, and people are actually sick, they need to quarantine. So it's really good that anybody that's coming in for a work note of any degree, OP is giving them 2 weeks off because they need to do that. They need to get out of that system, not allow any spreading to happen, and hopefully curb a little bit of this issue. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for listening to and watching the Storytime channel. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and let us know what you thought about these stories in the comments below. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.